What's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Clarouche.
This is our spoiler chat for episode 4 of Halo on Paramount Plus. Because we get nerdy nightly.
And we thought we'd share it with you.
That is right. Welcome back to another episode review spoiler chat of a Halo show where Master Chief doesn't fight anybody.
Nope. But
It's been so long.
we get to see a lot of skin.
A lot of butts.
Yeah.
This show is a weird thing about making sure that we have seen every main character's butt.
Or like the Spartans. I don't know.
No, both Spartans, McKee, and Vincher. We've now seen 4 characters' butts on this show.
I mean, hey, if you got it, flaunt it. You know, there's nothing wrong with a nice booty.
That Vincher scene was
all
just
the
so
time.
unnecessary. You do. I don't know. I felt like the Vincher nudity scene was. I was like, I get it, but
it was unnecessary.
Sure.
I don't know why they did it. The good news is this week's episode was better than last week's.
Yes.
That is the good news.
This week's episode made sense mostly.
Yeah.
Like the logic tracked from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Much better than last week's.
Mostly.
They didn't show any of the McKee stuff, which helps.
Yeah.
Because the McKee stuff is hard to kind of like make sense of.
It is.
Yeah.
It is also weird that it wasn't in this week's episode, considering we left off with her not gaining any information from this like really elaborate plot.
No, because at the end of that, she's like, we're going to Madrigal. And so I think that enough happened on Madrigal this episode without adding that in, right?
Oh, and they're gonna pile on. Okay.
So basically, there's like 3 main storylines in this episode. We have Master Chief goes to his home planet with Halsey and the creepy dude, and then we have
her weird assistant.
Oh my god, I can't remember the Spartans' names. I think it's Kai.
Oh, Kai
rips out her. It's Kai, Viz, and something.
It starts with an R, I think. Riz? No,
it's Viz, Kai.
No, it's Riz.
Riz?
I'm pretty sure it's Riz. Riz
Let me
is
just pull
the
it
one
up.
with a lot of freckles.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, so, which was the one that? I think it's Kai takes out her chip, which makes her better at working.
The pellet.
Yeah. Vanek is the
Vanek
other
is
one.
the third one. Okay,
I like Vanek a lot.
I do too.
He's
he has
great.
not had anything up until this episode, and his stuff was great in
But
it.
every line he delivers, I'm like, damn, dude, you're cool.
Yeah.
If they made a video game where you got to play as that character, I would be so in. He's so rad.
But yeah, we have the Master Chief storyline, and we have the Madrigal storyline, and then we kind of have the other Spartans storyline.
Which is really just about how Kai took out her
pellet. Dyed her hair pink,
Yeah.
and then definitely wanted to bone down with Halsey's daughter.
Yeah, the sexual chemistry between her and Halsey's daughter was off the charts.
Yeah, I was into it. And honestly,
but like, were you into the dye job?
No, it looks terrible, and she acknowledges that, right? Like, she's
I was like, she dyes her hair with like the jelly that she uses to clean her sniper rifle.
I think it was very weird. I'm like, how do you know that's not gonna like ruin your hair
or burn you or like? Yeah, I was very surprised. Like, I just felt like she could have like come up with a dye that wasn't so like tied to her weapon. Let's do this. Let's do this in story chunks. Let's start with the
Spartans.
We're here.
Start with the Spartans.
So Kai last week saw Master Chief take out his pellet.
Yes.
And so she stands in the exact same place in the very open bathroom.
Yeah.
Where people can just watch you do things.
And lots of people walk in.
And takes out her own pellet. And then Riz
walks in.
It's
like, what's he doing?
And Kai has a literal open wound on her back.
Yeah.
She's fully nude. And and Riz doesn't mention that. She's like, oh, did you cut yourself?
You're bleeding.
Yeah,
no mention of it.
Kai's like, I'll see you later. And she's like, okay.
All right,
cool.
Fine. Yeah, it was so awkward.
And that was the first butt of the episode. And then Halsey pulls the 3 Spartans from Silver Team to touch the item because
Halsey?
Miranda.
Okay,
Miranda
I
Keyes,
can't remember her name, but I know she's her daughter, so it makes it kind of confusing.
Miranda Keyes pulls Dr. Miranda Keyes, even though I think she's Lieutenant Miranda Keyes in the games.
Miranda.
She pulls the Spartans to touch the artifact.
Yes.
So that they can like test to see if the same thing happens that happens when Master Chief touches it.
Yes.
And this is where Kai goes from not behaving like a Spartan at all to like the extreme of it. Like she goes from like 0 to 1,000.
Yeah.
And none of the other Spartans acknowledge that she's behaving so weirdly.
Irrationally, yeah.
Because all the other Spartans stand stock still. They're so muted. And then she's like walking around the room. She's touching stuff. She's like cracking jokes. Yeah. And she's like, this.
And she goes off on Miranda.
Yeah.
She goes off on her, which was great. And I actually, like, there's a lot about this storyline that I really enjoyed, especially like their relationship, because Miranda is very uncomfortable around the Spartans. And she literally has that moment where she's like, yeah, you know, when I was a kid, I thought my mom liked you guys more than she liked me. And is it Kai who's like, that must have been very difficult for you?
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, you just said it. You said it out loud. And that was fun.
This is actually my favorite storyline on the show so far. Miranda Keyes getting all nerdy about the fact that the Spartans have heard the Sankili language.
Yeah.
And so they can help her with her research.
Yeah.
And how she goes from dismissing the Spartans to being like, please help me.
Yeah.
I loved. And I actually thought that the scenes between, once the other two Spartans left, because when the other two Spartans were there, it was just a little distracting to me that the Spartans weren't in any way registering that Kai was behaving differently.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why no one in the episode other than Miranda Keyes responded to that. It just felt weird that everyone was just behaving as if Kai was acting normally and she clearly wasn't. But then the scene where the two of them are alone together, I was like, this scene is great, where they're talking about language and how important it is to understand what the Sankili are going through, and how you know, the two of them together are able to figure out what a halo is.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like this is genuinely good writing, interesting characters. The actors are both performing so admirably. And so this storyline, I was really happy with this week. I was like, this is cool, and I liked it a lot.
Definitely, the best out of the three for sure. Yeah. And I think a big part of it is that everyone who was in it sold it. Apart from obviously the other Spartans being there and not noticing the weird stuff that's going on is kind of strange. But yeah, the Miranda and Kai interactions were 10 out of 10, so happy with that.
And the Spartans telling the stories about how they had pets, but they had to put them down if they lost.
Yeah.
That's from the lore. And
then they won anyways.
It relates to Miranda, a new relationship with her mom. And I really love that idea of these Spartans tell her a story that she didn't know. And now this woman who already has this difficult relationship with her own mother, has like it digs a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
And they're not
Some
afraid.
Red flags.
The show, to its credit, is not afraid to dive into how warped Halsey's worldview is.
Yeah.
Because Miranda literally explains her mom perfectly. And it's in this episode, and it's great, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of the Halsey stuff in the show has been good. Halsey is, you know, your favorite character.
By far, yeah.
And I think is the most interesting character, because in many ways she feels like the antagonist of the show right now.
Yeah.
Because the Covenant are such a they're so far away and so unrelated to the main plot that Halsey kind of is, in a weird way, the antagonist of what's actually going on week to week. And more so like the UNSC is the antagonist of the show. But I was really happy with this. And like I when Miranda and Kai were on screen together doing their stuff this episode, I was leaning forward. I was in.
Yeah, for sure.
I was surprised at that. I didn't think I would care at the beginning of this episode when they started this story. And by the end of the story, I was like, that's the best thing the show's done so far.
Yeah, I agree with you for sure. I think let's go to the Master Chief section.
Oh, you want to go there?
Well,
I was thinking we'd end with Master Chief, because the episode ends with Master Chief.
All right, yeah. You know what? Let's get through the shittiest part of the episode. You're right. Let's get it over with, and then we'll end on something a little better. Yeah. So.
I love that laugh.
This is I hate this so much. Quan is on Madrigal and is convinced that there's some kind of revolution happening in her dad's name for some reason.
Well, because she grew up in the revolution. Like, she's only ever known the revolution.
I guess.
Yeah.
Sure, I guess. That's all she's ever known. And is surprised when she gets to Madrigal and finds out that, like, she's a wanted person and that she's putting people in danger by speaking to them and, like, being seen with them.
And shouting in public squares at them.
Yeah. Has no chill. No sense of sneak level 0. I was just like, you are being so stupid in every single scenario that you are being put in right now, and it's unfortunate. It's because it's hard to watch. I'm sitting there and I'm like, you're a moron.
The Quan stuff makes no sense.
No sense.
The most frustrating part of this whole episode to me is that she gets to Madrigal.
Yeah.
Goes to meet a merchant that I guess she knew.
Well,
who doesn't want to help her. Then
runs into him accidentally, right?
Well, no, she's like intentionally going through that.
Okay.
Market.
All right. Yeah.
He tells her to go to her dad's memorial.
Yeah.
She gets there, is upset that there aren't enough people there, so she starts freaking out. And she talks to her.
Her dad's number
lieutenant.
one, basically.
And then that doesn't go well, and so she's like, you know what? We should go see my aunt, who controls the money. And I'm like, why didn't you go there first?
Well, first, before they even get there, she endangers the entire memorial.
Right, but my point is that if she was rational as a character, she would have gone to see her aunt first. It's just the logical first place for her to go is there.
Yeah.
Rather than this weird route that she's trying to go through where she's hoping that somebody leads her to something.
Yeah.
And then she goes to see her aunt, and her aunt has all of the answers that she needed at the beginning of the episode.
Yep.
And so it's so strange that they went on this side mission within a side mission to make Quan seem less capable.
Well, and the stupidest part about it is that because she's done other things first, it sets up how dangerous the situation is.
Yeah.
Whereas if she had gone straight to her aunt first and her aunt had died because of that, that would have been a really hard lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Right? She would have been like, oh, this is not safe. But because she already knows it's not safe, people have told her, and she still gets her aunt killed anyways.
Yeah.
Is so dumb.
And for what? Honestly, for what? And it's just tough because this storyline is taking up so much of the show.
Yes.
And I don't care about it at all.
I don't give a shit. Madrigal, sure, I know stuff sucks for you right now, but there are bigger problems to worry about because the Covenant is going to murder everybody.
In the episode, right? Her aunt is like, no, we're not fighting back right now. We're all trying to figure out how we're going to survive the Covenant. And Quan doesn't care about that at all. And I'm but you've seen the aliens. Of everyone in this city, you have a first-hand account of how dangerous they are.
Yep.
And the plot of Halo, the lore of Halo is that the Spartans were created to help fight the civil war amongst humans, right? The Spartans were not created to fight aliens. Mm-hmm. The aliens showed up later. They already had the Spartans. And so there is this really awful civil war happening amongst humanity when the Covenant show up.
Yeah.
And when the Covenant show up, they become such a huge threat that humanity has to put aside their crap and band together to fight this massive threat, right? Mm-hmm. That is sort of the undercurring plot of the lore of Halo.
Yeah.
Leading into the first game, where we're already at war with the Covenant and have been at war with the Covenant for a long time, and we're losing that war.
Yeah.
This show is trying to go so far back in terms of where the Halo plot of the games started. But
only in some places.
And the Covenant have been around since McKee was a kid.
Yeah.
So it's so weird because it's the Covenant have been around in this world since...
For 15 years, probably?
At least 15 years.
Yeah, I'm going to say around there.
She's got to be at least 20.
Yeah.
They've shown us her naked body. So she's an adult, I hope.
She has to be at least 18. Otherwise, what the hell?
Yeah. And so it just it brings up this question of if the humans have known about the Covenant for over a decade, then why are they still a myth in some places? If the Spartans have fought the Covenant so much that they know the language, that he has a nickname, they would have enough recordings and videos of the Covenant that they would be able to prove they exist. There would just be too much evidence, and so it's weird that people don't believe that the Covenant exists.
And they've glassed planets.
Yeah, and so the show just wants... The idea behind what's happening on the show, as it relates to the Madrigal stuff, makes no sense.
Yeah.
Everywhere else seems to make sense to me right now.
Yeah.
It's just this one storyline, and Quan Ha being so dead set on this revolution... And I get it. Venture's a bad guy. I'm not saying that I agree with what he's doing. I'm just saying that the show either has to be about Master Chief fighting the Covenant, or it has to be about the revolution on Madrigal.
Yeah.
But those two things aren't related enough for the show to spend as much time in as it is on both.
Yeah.
And so the more interesting stuff is the alien stuff, because the Madrigal stuff has nothing to do with Halo lore and feels like generic sci-fi nonsense.
Yes.
It just feels like it just feels like whatever.
Yeah.
And so when the show keeps cutting away from the more interesting world building to something that we've seen before on a planet that's just kind of boring.
Yeah.
With a plot that just is very generic and not related to everything else. I don't care.
Yeah.
I consistently don't care. And the characters I think that Soren is great. And I think that
he's also an idiot though.
A little bit.
He's like, oh wait, you're rich? Yeah, sure, I believe you.
I buy into him doing that though.
I don't.
Well, I mean, she literally is rich though. Her family is literally wealthy. Like,
no, her family has no money
now, but she didn't know that until they got there. She was telling the truth when she said that, right? From her perspective,
I guess.
As far as she's aware, her family was very wealthy. Right?
If I were Soren and I was like, this girl, her whole family just died. A bunch, like a city on her planet was, or an outpost, I guess, on her planet was massacred.
Yeah.
What would make me think that she would have any access to any kind of wealth?
Yeah, I don't know. The magical stuff just doesn't work, and it's not important to the show, and I just don't care.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with like I've seen some stuff online that's like really gross about casting, and
yeah. No,
there have been some comments that are like I'm not trying to. The problem is like I'm disliking the same parts of the show that people with that opinion dislike.
Yes, but for different reasons. We don't care what race Kwan Ha is, and if you do, you can get the fuck out. It doesn't matter.
It's just that the storyline is. It's that they made her a kid, first of all. I'm still bugged that she's under 18, right?
Yeah.
It's that she has no reason to think that she can fight a revolution, but she's adamant that she can.
Yeah.
She
can't fight anyone.
This story isn't connected. It just keeps going into Madrigal in a way that I'm like, either make it relevant to everything else going on. They should have put the second artifact on Madrigal. If you want this planet to be so important, Master Chief has to have a reason to go there.
I guess.
Right, but Master Chief has no reason to go back to Madrigal.
No.
There's not a reason for the show to bring him back there.
No.
And so if your protagonist has no reason to ever go back here, why are we spending so much time here?
I don't know.
And like, I just don't know, like, I just wish that, I wish they had like made Kwan Ha the Blessed One instead of Master Chief, so that they like needed her to activate the thing.
Oh, people would have hated that.
They would have hated it, but at least it would have made this plot line relevant to the show.
Yeah.
But right now, it just doesn't feel like it is.
Yep.
And I feel like I'm ragging on this, and maybe I'm being mean, but like I'm so, and maybe it ends up being relevant somehow. I don't understand how they could do that at this point.
Yeah.
Because we have to get to Halo at some point in this freaking show, and Master Chief has to fire a gun at some point in the show. It's been 3.5 episodes since he's fought something.
Yeah.
And I just don't know what I'm watching. I'm watching like
Halo.
A not Halo sci-fi show. That's fine.
Yeah. It feels like it's a sci-fi show that was written and they put Halo on top of it.
But if I wanted to watch generic sci-fi, but done well, I would watch The Expanse, right?
Yeah.
Not that anything about Expanse is generic. I'm just saying like a non-IP driven sci-fi show.
Yeah.
I would go watch The Expanse.
Yeah.
Right? Or I like there are other shows that are doing not Halo.
Yep.
If you're going to do Halo.
Yeah.
Like, stop interjecting not Halo into this and distracting from the stuff that is actually good and is Halo.
Yeah.
Because the Miranda Keyes Kai stuff this episode was good.
100%.
And I was like, when they lean into cool ideas, it is a different take on the Halo lore, but when they lean into stuff that is at least Halo lore, the Sangheili language, the relationship to the Halo, and how it's built into the language because it's the religion, when they lean into that shit, it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
And like, I liked it. And then they go to Madrigal, and I don't care.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. I'm glad we got this out in like the middle so we can actually end on some positivity, because not everything has been awful. I think that the Master Chief stuff is really intriguing right now.
Yeah.
And like
agreed.
I said, Halsey is my favorite character. Because of how complicated she is.
Agreed.
Right? There's so much there.
And an incredible performance.
Yeah,
I think that actress is doing it. Natasha McElhenney, I think is her name. She's great.
She's wonderful. Yeah. But yeah, we see Master Chief going to his home planet, basically, which was a colony that has since died out.
Which I thought was beautifully realized.
Yeah, really well done. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the like flashbacks. I think it went on a little bit too long of Master Chief being like.
The editing in that scene was very odd.
It was.
I understand they want to play with the first personness of the games.
Yeah.
But the way that it would cut into his helmet to like the super close-ups of his face, and he's just kind of like
right here.
But it wasn't when he was talking.
Yeah.
It was exclusively when he was just going.
Yeah. It was a weird choice.
And like, I get that he has the helmet on and so you can't show his reactions and you want the actor to act, but like it's just such a it was so close.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what they were trying to do. I don't know if they quite hit the mark, but like I can appreciate it at least.
Agreed. Yeah.
I think that's kind of the consensus. Yeah, and I think it went a bit. I went on a little bit too long. However, Master Chief does find out where the other artifact is,
and like it puts a wrench in his relationship with Halsey in a smart way.
Yes,
where he sees this memory of her being there before he was split from his parents, and I really liked the writing of this because on the flip side of that, Halsey responds with, "Oh yeah, well, memories related to time around trauma can get jumbled up."
Into each other,
and I was like, God, she is manipulative.
Yeah.
But in a smart way where I'm like, that is you're being evil and manipulative. But you're right. Like that is a true. You are using a true statement to hide a lie.
Yes.
Which makes the character seem smart and makes her seem capable. And so I appreciated the dichotomy of that, and it was well done.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And the dog is also very cute.
He doesn't fully buy her. But he doesn't completely dismiss her.
Yes.
And so he's acting smart too, because he's like, all right, I don't have enough evidence to go 180 on her.
Yeah.
But I'm more wary.
And I'm suspicious.
Yeah, it's like I've changed by like 40%. Not 100%, but like 40%.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like when characters are complicated, and like I wish the guy wasn't there, because after the whole nearly kissing Halsey thing, I really don't care about that character, and I think he's very strange.
Yeah.
Even though I do like that actor, and I think that it's not him, it's the writing of his character.
Yeah.
I wish that it had been just Halsey and Master Chief and Cortana, because Cortana's perfect in this show.
Great. Yeah.
She's so good.
She's like, I'm not projecting anymore.
Well, and her, like, the way that she portrayed her concern as she watched Master Chief go around the room, I thought was so well done.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I agreed with you there.
You can tell that she's already starting to form a like emotional connection to John, which is so important to their relationship.
Well, and it's one of those things where I wonder if Halsey has taken that into account, because to me, when I look at what's happened, it's inevitable, especially because she is directly in his head and not in the helmet.
Yeah.
Right? Like, of course they are going to be emotionally connected. They are literally in the same brain. Like...
And like Cortana, the way that Cortana loves John is one of my favorite things about the games. Mm-hmm. It's such a like important part of those characters to me.
Yeah.
And especially like at the end of Halo 3, it's just their relationship is one of my favorite video game relationships ever written in those first 3 games. And obviously like 4 through Infinite do some different things with it, and I like that to varying degrees less, but the relationship between Cortana and John in those first 3 games to me is just one of my favorite things in all of video gaming, and I'm glad that the actress who played Cortana in the games is doing such a good job of sowing the seeds of that relationship in the show. Just
she clearly understands
without a lot of dialogue to do it. It's a lot of reactions, and I think that her acting plus the effect that brings her to life, it does not make any sense to me that she can just be anywhere. I don't really understand how she's in the space. But I think that her acting in these scenes is really exemplary, and I'm glad they're physically realizing her everywhere so that we're getting those reactions on her face, because she's doing a great job. And the effect, despite the fact that I don't understand where it's coming from, looks consistent 100% of the time.
Yep, I will agree with that.
There has not been a bad shot of Cortana yet in the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And so Master Chief
has his memories.
He finds the other artifact, the like bigger piece to the puzzle, which it cut, so we don't actually know. I don't. You might have a more idea.
No, this is not.
Okay, this is new. I was like, I don't know how this piece plays into it, but we have another big piece of the puzzle for next week, which is gonna be fun.
I might be remembering this wrong. I don't think I am, though. I think that when they land on the Halo in the games, in the first game, at the end of the first mission, you crash on the Halo. I'm pretty sure Master Chief has no idea what it is at that point.
I mean, technically, he does not know what the Halo is right now.
Right. But there's no like keystone that led them to the Halo. Like they like stumble upon it by accident.
Oh, interesting.
While they're fighting the Covenant. I might be remembering that wrong, but I'm pretty sure that like learning what the Halo ring is like the plot is a lot of the first game.
The comments will let you know.
Yeah, they'll tell me.
Someone will tell.
And so, so many characters knowing what the Halo is before they get there is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Because Kai and Miranda know, and
well, kind of. They're piecing it together.
Yeah. I just gotta follow Twitch. That's funny. Yeah, interesting. It is very interesting. I enjoyed this episode more. I still don't care about Madrigal.
No.
But I like the Halsey Chief relationship they're building, and I like the Keys Kai relationship, and I like the Cortana Master Chief relationship. So like, there's like 3 things in the show that I think are going well. I would like an action sequence starring this action star of your show, please.
Yeah, that would be
I was hoping this episode would end with them finding the artifact at the same time that the elites get there.
And fighting them.
There would be like and Master Chief was going to have to physically protect Halsey in the fight. Yeah. I thought that would have been interesting, but
it would have been.
Yeah, I want an action sequence that's not like Soren driving a motorcycle through Madrigal.
Yeah.
That was fine, but just way too edited for my taste.
I didn't care for it.
I think their set wasn't big enough for them to have any extended shots.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of cuts because they had to keep like flipping the camera and driving back and forth on that a small set to hide how long their alley was.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I understand the like limitations of that, but in terms of like impressive action sequences, it wasn't impressive. Not. It was fine.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I feel super conflicted about this show right now because there have been so many things that I really, really dislike, but at the same time, I am interested in the story of it. So next week we'll see.
If we weren't talking about it for this weekly, would you watch the show?
After last week's, no, I would not have come back to this episode. Mm-hmm. Last week's episode was bad. I would have not have wasted my time, and I would have gone on to something else because there's so much content out there.
Yeah, we have 5 episodes left, though, so there's a lot of potential room left. It's not like Moon Knight, which we talked about 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Where Moon Knight...
That's wrapping up real quick.
Moon Knight's halfway through.
Yeah.
Like, we have... At the end of next week's episode, we'll be halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a lot more Halo left.
Yeah.
Which is nice, because they haven't done very much.
No.
I really... God, I hope they wrap up this magical stuff and get off that planet. I don't care. I really don't. I'm worried they won't. I'm worried it's going to be like throughout the whole season. But like, honestly, if you literally cut all of the Quan Ha stuff after Chief left her with Soren, it wouldn't change this show at all. And it would be a better show.
Yeah.
If we just never went back to Madrigal. Because now there's like mystics on Madrigal who have like prophecy. I don't care. I don't. Unless it's going to tie into the main plot at some point. I don't care.
Yeah, don't give a shit.
Anyway, I think that's all of our thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm excited for action next week.
Hopefully.
Maybe.
Oh my God, please, maybe.
In the Halo show, can I have a fight scene?
That'd be nice.
Oh, I really liked Kai talking about the Needler. That scene was dope.
Oh yeah, she's like my favorite weapon.
That Needler was also very large.
Is it not that big?
No, it's a one-hand weapon in the games.
Yeah, it looks like a one-hand weapon.
It looked like the Needler in the games I think is like this big, and that was like this big. The Needler in the show was massive.
It was pretty large, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a handgun in the...
Oh, all right.
Yeah. The Needler was very large.
Fair enough.
It looked like the size of like a plasma rifle, which means nothing to you and everything to me.
Yeah, come back next week. Come back next week if you want to stick around for this journey that we are all on together.
I'm curious at the end of this if I'm going to like the story of the show more or Halo Infinite more. That'll be an interesting...
That'll be tough because you did not like Halo Infinite.
I liked parts of it.
Okay.
The show is more interesting than Halo Infinite because Halo Infinite had 2 zones, outside and inside.
I love that.
And they looked the same at all times, but...
Oh, man. Well, let us know in the comments below if you're enjoying Halo Infinite more or the Halo show, and make sure you leave a like on the video.
If you're one of the 5 people still playing the Halo Infinite multiplayer, I might see you in there, or probably not. If you like this video, like and subscribe to the channel. If you don't, hit that dislike button. Leave mean comments down below because the algorithm god is hungry. Like the flood, and we must feed the flood, or they'll eat us, and that would be bad. If you want to follow us around the internet, surprise, you can. We make it easy.
Everywhere.
I'm at Nerdy Nightly.
I'm at Claris Polaris.
And as always, y'all, go play some Halo tonight.
Do it.
It's a fun game. Combat Evolved, y'all.
Bye.